You could call the meeting to order though, Mr.
Okay,
President.
we're ready?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm calling the meeting to order.
Okay, this meeting is being held in accordance with the schedule of meetings adopted at the organizational meeting held January 6, 2020. Adequate notice of this regular meeting of the Kenilworth Board of Education has been provided to the Home News Tribune, the Star Ledger, the local source. A copy has been filed with the Kenilworth Borough Clerk, posted in the board office, the Kenilworth Borough Hall, the Brearley and Harding Schools, as is provided by the Open Public Meetings Act. This meeting has been changed time to 5:30 via notice on March 30th, 2020. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act and in consideration of Executive Order Number 107 issued by Governor Murphy, the Kenilworth Board of Education does hereby notify the public that to limit public gatherings and to mitigate any person-to-person exposure, this Kenilworth Board of Education meeting will be conducted using a Zoom video conferencing. The public will be able to view live via YouTube stream. The link will be available at 5:30 p.m. by clicking on the watch the meeting live icon on the Kenilworth District homepage. Public comment will be accepted only during the public comment period in the meeting via email, publiccomments@kenilworthschools.com, or by calling 908-931-9696, extension 2325.
Okay, thank you, Vince. Can everyone please stand to salute the flag? I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mr. Gow, can we have roll call?
Heiner.
Here.
Braun.
Here.
David.
Here.
Drogan.
Here.
Haberther.
Here.
Jankowicz.
Here.
Ladati.
Here.
Panici.
Here.
Zimmerman.
Here.
All present.
Very good. Our first item is receiving of the minutes of the secretary from our March 9th and 16th meetings. Does anyone, or would anyone like to make a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion to accept.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second? We have a motion made by Mr. Zimmerman, second by Mr. Jankowicz. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Next item is reading and acceptance of our monthly correspondence. Mr. Ganella.
We do not have any public correspondence this month.
Okay. We can move on then to superintendent's report and presentations. Mr. Arlington.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm going to share my screen and just present a very high-level overview of our distance learning thus far. So what I wanted to do was share with you kind of where we started off in the last 4 weeks, where we are now, and then where we hope to go moving forward. And I end with some kind of silver lining notes about the way in which this work has had some incidental benefits for us and the way it's kind of hopefully moving us forward.
Excuse me, Kyle, I can't hear you.
Okay. I was muted because I thought the other mic was picking up. Can you hear me now, Paulette?
No, just very low.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I'm fine also.
Yeah, it's something with bullets.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna keep going. No, I have to mute myself because there's an echo. Okay.
Better. Thank you.
Still an echo. From me.
Turn your volume off.
Yeah, I have. Give me 1 sec, everyone.
Mic and your volume.
Mic. Okay. On Friday, the March 13th is when we called for sort of emergency professional development day as we were getting wind that the next week the governor was going to close schools. We tried to stay ahead of that by meeting on that day to organize and set expectations for teachers. And that day really proved to be invaluable. I had initially, as you know, requested a sort of delayed opening or a half day, I forget now because the plan changed so many times. But really, we did need a full day to honor teachers and the work of getting organized. So I had the opportunity to meet with each faculty the morning of the 13th and just outline some expectations, keeping in mind that on that day, we didn't really assume for how long we would be out of school. So for the 2-week period, we talked about providing students with review material and about 2 hours worth of learning each day per course. Of course, that varied depending on the grade level and the achievement level of kids. On that Monday, we needed some opportunity for students to pick up the materials. So in as organized a fashion as possible, we did have the building open and a ton of teacher volunteers to really assist students in getting the materials of the day. Through the auspices of Mr. Rodriguez and his team, we loaned well over 100 Chromebooks out to students. And so we tried to put a construct around that by having some protocols in place for the borrowing of that technology. But the deeper we got into our distance learning month, the more technology we had to loan. This week, as you know, if you read my update, my community update, I did put a moratorium on loaning technology because at this time we don't have the capacity to keep loaning technology. Of course, there are extenuating circumstances. We've been dealing with those on a case-by-case basis. Those students who are eligible for free and reduced lunch, Mr. Ganello's office sent a survey and information to them. Through the auspices of Mascios, we have had about 30 kids each day pick up those lunches. If I can circle back to just some of the teacher expectations, we tried really hard on that Friday, the 13th, to outline for parents in the community the communication communication avenues that they could take to contact their teachers during that distance learning period. So what we did was build a tab on the website to try to have a sort of one-stop shopping for parents and community members for all things remote instruction. And so that tab looks different now than it did 4 weeks ago. But my goal is to treat it as living and breathing, so it serves as a really rich repository of resources for our stakeholders. So if that's where we were 4 weeks ago, here's where we are today. Some challenges have been finding this sort of perfect sweet spot of balance between communicating too much and not enough. So in my Friday board update, I shared with you some flows that I want to put in place for communication. So moving forward, starting last week on Thursday, I sent out a message to the community that presents district level happenings. And then following up the next day, the principals kind of drill down into that information with more building specific details. I've been getting a lot of questions, maybe more than, I don't know, maybe it would surprise you, maybe it wouldn't, that why don't my updates indicate when we're coming back to school? So I have in my reminder this week going out, that's really not up to me. That's per the governor's orders. At the end of the month, right? He said he would assess no earlier than the 17th, but we're planning for an extended period of distance learning. About 50%, maybe a little bit more of our teachers were on Google Classroom prior to this event, but it's proved to be a really useful learning management system. So we provided some virtual professional development opportunities for teachers over the past few weeks to better equip those teachers who weren't on Google Classroom to get on the learning management system because of all the benefits it has. So my post-spring break expectation is that all teachers in grades 3 through 12 will be on Google Classroom when we get back. And we're running more PD this week to support that, along with more professional development, which I'll talk about in a little bit, for live instruction. Mrs. Kukolo, our Director of Student Personnel Services, is working closely with our building aides to provide for some professional development in the realm of skill set building. Where we are now is that our lunches continue. They'll continue next week during spring break as well to provide food for those students who are eligible. So one strategy that I've tried to employ
over the past 4 weeks is to think of our distance learning plan as questing after excellence, but never quite being perfect. So if you've been reading the community updates each Friday, you'll notice that I'm trying to take feedback that I'm getting from a variety of constituents and implement it in measured and thoughtful ways. So one of the recent updates we made is a schedule to grades 6 to 12. And that schedule looks like an A day, a B day, and an anchor day. So that idea was supported by the KEA and generated by teachers. The goal of that A day, B day schedule is so that kids have fewer classes each day, right? They're only focusing on those 4 classes. And then the anchor day, where they see all their classes in grades 6 to 12, is meant to be a sort of check-in. We put that in place this week along with time parameters so that there are no conflicts for the purpose of live instruction, right? So if I'm running live instruction via a Google platform, Google Meets, let's say, and so too is Mr. Ganella, and I'm a kid, I could be conflicted and I have to choose. So we didn't want that to happen. So right now we're at a place where we're just having that schedule for the purpose of live instruction. I have gotten some feedback and some questions as to why we're not having like at 9 o'clock, everybody has to be on, at 10 o'clock, everybody has to be on. So some of the challenges around that are we don't have a one-to-one program. And as a result, parents are sharing devices with kids and kids are sharing devices, with siblings, and that makes it really tough. Also trying to be flexible for teachers as well, realizing that they have their own children at home and their own kind of learning needs to meet. And so that flexibility has been really important. And so we're trying to find this sweet spot between providing just enough structure, but also realizing that distance learning is pretty fluid. We continue to monitor email response time from teachers and administrators, and it's my expectation that those emails get returned in between 24 and 48 hours. But in those rare one-offs where that's not happening, I've been asking parents and teachers to follow the communication chain of command. So here's where I hope we're going post spring break. So more opportunities for live instruction via synchronous and asynchronous opportunities. So synchronous would be live, everybody on in the class at the same time. Asynchronous would be more self-paced. So using Google Classroom, using screencasts, email, etc. We have a really healthy majority of our teachers using live instruction already. And the purpose of this Thursday's PD, like last week's PD aimed at Google Classroom, this week we'll be looking at live instruction and also helping support those remaining teachers who are not on Google Classroom to get on. I'm working with Mr. Rodriguez. We have some guidance going out this week about additional safeguard measures that teachers should be putting in place for their use of Zoom. There's been a lot written in the papers and publicized around like Zoom bombing and privacy and data breaches. Zoom has made some improvements to those things. And I feel that those improvements coupled with tighter protocols by way of settings that teachers need to be using when facilitating their Zooms make it a viable platform for us. Special ed and IEP services continue. You may have heard that the DOE released a waiver which allows for virtual therapies and counseling. So our related services, speech, OT, and PT, are either currently or gearing up to provide virtual therapies. And we're getting ready because spring is the season of reevals to have virtual IEP meetings as well. We're still keeping an eye towards hopefulness in terms of our spring ceremonies, but we're also planning for certain events, what might they look like if we don't go back to school? And that includes like the what ifs of our summer programs. So while we're planning right now for live sort of brick and mortar ESY instruction and Title I programs, of course, there's a possibility that those may be virtual as well. So looking to prepare for that currently. And then as I had mentioned previously, constantly looking to build content for the distance learning tab. And parents are indicating that they're finding that useful. So in an attempt to see this situation through a glass that's half full, here are some silver linings. I see a ton of teachers taking instructional risks. I see virtual morning meetings. I see community-wide band practices. I see a lot of things that wouldn't have happened or would have taken a long time for us to move. And so part of that is certainly advancing our future-ready practices. The incidental benefit is that this really does provide some real momentum and support for our one-to-one rollout next year at Brewerly Middle High School. And through that process, I have become aware of a lot of team building and collaboration. So not just among the leadership team, but really colleague to colleague, professional to professional, helping to support each other in some of these new tools. And then also, creating thought partnerships between teachers and helping them advance and move their practice. And of course, you've seen all the memes about, wanting your homeschooled kid out of your class and whatnot. And so I think there's a real pleasant tenor in celebration of teachers right now. This Thursday, I sent an invite for a curriculum committee meeting, and I hope at that meeting that I may have the opportunity to drill down into some of these really salient points. But for the purpose of tonight's board meeting, I wanted to present just a high-level overview of, again, where we were, where we are, and where I hope to go. I'm happy to answer questions, President David, or continue on.
Sure. Does any board member have any questions for Mr. Arlington?
No.
Okay. Hearing none, I guess you can move on to the next item.
Sure. The next item I sent to you in an email on Sunday, which is the rationale for the superintendent's HIB report. So in March, you don't have any new cases across any grade level. In that packet I sent, the penultimate page has the suspension report for March, and the last page has the district enrollment report as of March 31st.
Does anyone have any questions regarding the HIB report?
No.
No? All right, very good. We can move on then to report of committees, review of resolutions, and board discussion. First up is Finance and Facilities, Mr. Ladati. Mr. Ladati, you on mute?
On mute.
He's on mute.
Looks like his system froze.
Yeah, he's frozen.
Wonder if he knows it.
There he goes.
No, hello? I'm locked off the system, so I can't see anything anymore. So, but can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm just gonna read my report. I asked Vince to put up some slides anyway, so I'll just go right into my report. Thank you, Mr. David. The budget has been submitted to the Executive County Superintendent and has been approved for advertising. The committee met virtually last evening, and I want to thank everybody on the committee for spending some time Sunday night and try to get this straightened out. But the committee met last night virtually, and we discussed the budget in context with the coronavirus crisis and the need to modify the tax levy to reduce the burden on the taxpayers during this uncertain economic times. The committee is recommending the use of an additional $150,000 of free balance to reduce the tax levy. It is anticipated that over the next several months, the district will save some operational expenditures. These funds would roll over into free balance. The board and the public need to understand that this is a temporary relief package and that the 2022 budget may have a higher tax levy than the current one due to the use of the free balance to reduce the tax levy in 2020, 2021. The committee is hopeful that by then that there will be a better economic outlook. The final budget will be approved on April 29th at the public hearing. Just some other things that we're looking for with the legislature. The committee is monitoring some legislation that are various points of the approval process. A3902, this bill, which has already been passed by the Assembly, would allow municipalities to withhold and or delay tax payments to the school districts. The Senate has not scheduled any meetings where this bill could be introduced. Resolution number 7 on tonight's agenda stands in opposition of this bill. S2303, this bill will prohibit the board from entering into any subcontracting agreement which may affect the employment of any employees in a collective bargaining unit under any circumstances during the term of an existing collective bargaining agreement covering employees. S993, this bill provides non-teaching employees of the board the right to submit to binding arbitration any dispute regarding whether there is just cause for disciplinary action, including but not limited to reprimands, withholding of increments, termination, non-renewals, expiration or lapse of employment, contract or term, or lack of continuation of employment, irrespectively of the reason for the employer's action or failure to act, and irrespectively of any contractual or negotiation provision or lack thereof. This bill places the burden of proof in the arbitration on the employer. I reviewed all the resolutions and I find them all to be in order. That's all I have, Mr. David.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ladati. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Ladati regarding his report?
About the budget, or just, well, yeah, because I'm wondering, there will be no cuts from the budget. You're just going to use money that's already there.
Well, we really didn't want to cut any programs because that's what we would have taken. That's my opinion. As
Oh, I really, okay, so you realize the mess that the towns will all be in because there'll be no taxes going in. So I really would have hoped you would have did some cutting on the budget somehow. I'm kind of disappointed by that, but whatever. I mean, taking money from something else is not helping the problem. There will be no taxes going into these municipalities or the state. And we just have to try to cut a little bit for a little while. Anyway, that's my opinion.
All right, well, thank you for that. Anyone else have any other comments on Mr. Ladati's report? Okay, we'll move on to personnel and management. Mr. Havether.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, a little garbled, but.
All right. I'll do my best. There's only 3 resolutions tonight. Resolution number 8 is a voluntary transfer of school secretary. Resolution number 9 is for educators of the year. And resolution number 10 is the approval of substitute staff. And that is it for resolutions on personnel amendment.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Havether regarding resolutions? So just a comment, Ryan, I don't know if you would know, but maybe Mr. Arlington. So obviously one of the resolutions is to honor educators of the year. I'm sure under normal circumstances there are, well, I know there are multiple types of recognition done. So Mr. Arlington, do you want to comment on the teachers that were selected, or I should say educators?
So I hoped, thanks, Mr. David. I hope that at the May meeting, I may try to, if we're not back in school, get them to kind of zoom in to kind of honor them in the way that they deserve to be honored. So I've already extended my congratulations a couple of times to them, but I had mentioned in my Friday update, I'd love for the opportunity to honor them robustly, and I'm trying to plan for that in May, and trying to keep it at abeyance for now in hopes that we will be back and then we get to see them in person. But if not, definitely have them on the Zoom with us so that you may hear about them and offer them your congratulations virtually.
Mr. Arlington, maybe you just quickly mention the educators that were selected.
Sure. Jackie Schmidberg is a 2nd grade teacher at Harding Elementary School. Kitty Pollock is a middle school social studies teacher. Jake is a comp sci teacher here at Burley High School. Jamie Hill is a related services professional at Harding, and Roseanne Barilla is an LDTC and is also working with our alternate ed population here at Burley High School. So congratulations to them all.
Congratulations, and thank you, Mr. Arlington. Okay, we'll move on to curriculum and instruction. Mrs. Zimmerman.
All right, thank you, Mr. David. Like the others, we don't have a lot for this report. We will be having a curriculum committee meeting on Thursday night this week, again by Zoom. Our resolutions, resolution 11 calls for curriculum adoption, some new, some revisions. Resolution number 12 allows for the implementation of the usual summer school programs for the summer of 2020. Of course, pending the way things are going with the current, but regardless, some sort of summer school things are required by the state, and we will have to address those at that time. And resolution 13 is the HIB report for the month of February. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mrs. Zimmerman? Okay, I don't hear any. So we will move on. I don't see any resolutions under policy, but Mrs. Braun, do you have anything you'd like to bring up?
No, there's nothing under policy this month.
Okay, very good. Then we can move on to old business. Does anyone have anything under old business? Okay, hearing no one, we'll move on to new business. Does anyone have anything under new business?
Really quick touch on something.
Sure.
With new business. You know, as Kyle mentioned short time, we don't really know where we're going yet with the virus situation and when school's going to get back into the classrooms again, or what's going to happen. There's a lot of speculation out there from district to district, state to state. But one thing that keeps popping up are, like Kyle mentioned, the spring ceremonies and the types of things that you don't want to see lost. I would just hope that no matter what happens with the school year, whether we get back into the classrooms before June or not, that we keep that in mind and don't forego a normal graduation ceremony for those students, our 8th graders and our high school seniors, who it's a big deal for them. It's a big deal for their families. Even if it means being on the field in the middle of July, I'm for it. That's it.
Okay, thank you for that. I think that's a good message. We'll have to see how things turn out. Anyone else under new business? Okay, I'm going to move on to opening the meeting to the public. Would someone like to make a motion to open the meeting to the public?
Make a motion.
So moved. Did I hear Mrs. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Mrs. Zimmerman, second by Miss Braun. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, the meeting is open to the public for comment. The Board of Education sets the limit for the public to speak at the board meeting to 5 minutes per person unless prior permission has been granted by the board for extended time. Let's see, to make a comment, you can do so by email to publiccomments@kenilworthschools.com. That's publiccomments@kenilworthschools.com, or you can call 908-931-9696, extension 2325. One more time, that's 908-931-9696, extension 2325.
Since there's probably a little bit of a delay, we're just going to pause a moment, and we should have been prepared with the Jeopardy theme song, but we weren't. So sorry about that. So let's just give it a minute, okay, just in case. Right now, as of right now, I don't have any emails other than a test one we sent earlier that says test. So we will see if anyone calls in.
Very good.
We maybe hold the phone number up on a piece of paper or something, maybe in front of somebody's camera.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Or is it visible somewhere? I mean, I don't see it as part of our scenario here, but maybe the public will see it.
Did you share that? We'll take care of that, Nance, right now.
Right. Just in case, if somebody's call.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, I think we've waited long enough, Mr. David. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. All right, so with that, then I will,
Public,
thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion made by Mrs. Zimmerman, second by Ms. Braun. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. The meeting is closed to the public, and we'll move on to roll call of resolutions. Mr. Ganello.
Yeah, we're gonna do something just a tad different tonight because there's no one here to physically sign the actual resolutions. We're gonna do it by committee. So if the chairperson of each committee could make a motion to move those resolutions and someone second it, we'll move along. So the first one up is finance, which is resolutions 1 through 7.
I make a motion that we move resolutions 1 through 7.
I'll second.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure.
All in favor of resolutions 1 through 7?
Can you pull one for me?
Sure.
Number 7?
Number 7. Okay, so this is for 1 through 6 on the agenda, and I'll do roll call on it. 1 through 6. Biner,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Drogan,
Yes?
Tabitha,
Yes.
Jankowicz,
Yes.
Ladati,
Yes.
Denichi,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
yes.
David.
Yes.
Okay, this is for resolution number 7 on the agenda. Biner,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Drogan,
No.
Tabitha,
Yes.
Jankowicz,
Yes.
Ladati,
Yes.
Denichi,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Okay,
There's-
motion carries 8 to 1.
Yeah, hey Vince, before you can move on, I just want to make one note. I'm not sure. The resolution 7, as I understand it, was the board's opposing the bill that's going through the assembly to not allow the municipality to pay, to make their tax payments to the district. So I'm just, I guess I was a little bit surprised that Mrs. Drogan wouldn't be in favor of opposing that particular piece of legislation. But anyway,
And if I could make a comment on that?
sure.
I was extremely disappointed that there were no cuts in the budget. I don't know how the towns are going to pay for it. They'll have to take out all kinds of loans. So I just feel strongly that I believe that they shouldn't have to. I mean, there should be cuts. We're broke. We're all going to be broke. I don't know if you realize what's going to happen here. So I can't, in good conscience, vote for that. I'm sorry.
Paulette, we did reduce by that 150. We reduced the budget by $150,000. You realize that, right?
Cuts, not by cuts. You're taking it from somewhere and putting it in there. We've got to
That
do
is correct.
cuts.
Well, the kids still have to learn, and the
I
kids
understand
do
that.
due diligence with the children and make sure they're learning.
I
And to be-
understand.
So
Oh, they can learn with with some cuts. I'm sorry. I totally disagree. Listen, I can't even believe we didn't make cuts in that budget, knowing what's going to happen in this country and especially in Kenilworth. That's my
Right.
opinion. That was my vote. I stand
Okay.
by it.
Yeah, my final point is, I mean, I don't understand what cuts have to do with opposing legislation that's going to make sure that the district is properly funded to run next year's school year. But nevertheless, we'll move on. So Vince, next batch of resolutions.
Next batch of resolutions is personnel and management.
So I just made a proposition
Move
to
them.
have them vote on it. Oh, sorry. So move resolutions 8, 9, and 10 for a vote.
I second.
Okay. Motion's made by Haberther, seconded by Braun. This is for resolutions 8, 9, and 10 on the agenda. Biner,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Grogan,
Yes.
Haberther,
Yes.
Jankowicz,
Yes.
Ladati,
Yes.
Panici,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Motion's carry unanimously. Next up is curriculum and instruction, resolutions 11 through 13.
I move that resolutions 11 through 13 be passed.
Second.
Okay. Biner,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Drogan,
Yes.
Haberther,
Yes.
Jankowicz,
Yes.
Ladati,
Yes.
Panici,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Okay, motion's carry unanimously.
Okay, do we have a need to go into executive session, Mr. Ganella?
No, we do not.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to close the meeting, adjourn.
Second.
Second.
okay, and before I take a vote, I just want to make a quick note to my colleagues and the residents of Kenilworth. I think we all know that these are unprecedented times and difficult times, but I think we all believe that we'll get through them. I would like to encourage everyone to practice their social distancing. I have a family member who contacted the virus. It's serious. So everyone stay healthy, stay safe. And at this point, I will entertain, we have our motion in second. So all in favor?
And happy
Aye.
Easter.
Same to you.
Be safe.
Okay,
Stay well, everyone.
They will, folks. Have a good night. Thank you.
meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.